Welcome back to PCA's Garage. Today, we're going to restore the headlights on this '06 Cayenne S. Unfortunately, this Cayenne sits outside most of the time. The UV rays from the sun has not been kind to these plastic headlights. Unlike older Porsches or older cars that have glass lenses, these plastic lenses just don't withstand the test of time. This car is a '06, so over a dozen years worth of sunlight attacking it. It's yellowed, it's sort of degraded the outer coating on it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean them up. Now your options are, you could buy a replacement headlamp. These are Xenon headlamps, so you're probably looking at about $1,500 a side to replace with a new one. If you go to eBay and look for used ones, you might find them for a couple of $100s. You could possibly go to an aftermarket Cayenne headlight, which probably a couple $100s. And then finally, you can try to restore them. Now, you've probably seen a number of ways to restore headlights. Everyone's heard about possibly using toothpaste to restore them, or sanding them down, or polishing them with a car wax. I've tried pretty much every solution. Typically the results were okay, but more importantly is it just didn't last very long. I would be able to clear up the lens, and then a couple months later they'd be back to being yellow. What I did find is the solutions that seem to work a little bit longer are the ones where you clean the surface of the headlight and then put on a protective coat. There are some complicated packages out there for you to use, but what we've come across is a simple two-step system that Griot's Garage offers called the Headlight Restoration Kit. So let's take a look at what's inside the box. First, you'll find some lint-free towels. You'll notice the headlight restoration coating can, a sanding pad, some cleaning towelettes, an instruction sheet. I believe these are 9 steps to get this done. And I'd also recommend a few other things for this project. Gloves, keep your hands clean. Masking tape to mask around the headlights to make sure that you don't accidentally sand on your paint. Some glass cleaner just to prep the surface. A water bottle so that you can spray and keep the sanding block as well as the lens moist as you're sanding things down. Terry cloths, towels, newspaper, and drop cloth so that you can protect the areas of the car that you don't want to get overspray on. Now you could certainly take the headlights out fairly easy on a Cayenne. I like to keep them on the car just because that way when you're sanding it's on a rigid surface and you're sanding and the headlight's not moving around. So I'm going to leave them on the car and just tape all around. Okay, so 13 years of living outside has not been kind to this headlight. If you feel it, it's really rough. You can tell the coating that used to be on top of the headlight has broken down. It's obviously very yellow. So the light output through this lens isn't very good. And I'll be honest, driving this vehicle at night compared to my other cars, the headlights are just terrible now because it has to fire through this not so clear lens. So much like a paint job on a car, preparation is everything. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna tape around these edges here. We're going to clean the surface, and then we'll wet sand, and then we'll take it outside and we'll spray the clear coat, and I'll tell you why we're going to be outside doing that. Okay, so the reason why we masked off the headlight at this point is so that when we start sanding the surface of the headlight, we're not going to accidentally sand away any of the paint. This is your sanding pad here, and what you want to do is make sure it's nice and wet, and then spray the headlight as well. And then you want to make sure that you cover the headlight evenly so that you don't have more sanding versus less sanding. So you want to go in all different directions, or at least I do, and start getting that rough coating that has broken down. And you can see it's starting to yellow. And even though we cleaned it, the yellow is starting to come off and the water is very dirty. So you'll know the headlight's fairly clean once the water that's shedding off becomes more clear. Again, make sure that the surface of your headlight remains nice and wet so that the pad can do its job. And you're already starting to see that the headlight is becoming less yellow and all that old degraded top layer is being shedded off. What I really like about this product is that it's only 2 steps. As I said earlier, I've used other systems that take multiple steps, multiple creams, and use a drill and everything. This is all by hand. And everybody has water, everybody has a spray bottle, and with a little bit of time and effort, and I really mean little, because if we weren't filming this, I could probably do a headlight in less than 30 minutes. And again, you're not wanting to rush this type of a job, because the better you sand it and prep it, the better the headlight's gonna come out. So take your time. Get all the sides, all these edges. When you're at the edges, don't dig in too much because you don't want to accidentally sand through the protective masking tape that you put there and scratch your paint. So you're starting to see the water is much more clear than when we first started. And the headlight is becoming less yellow. So what you saw was I just flipped the pad in the event that you sort of lose the aggressiveness on the side that you started with. Flip to the other side and you have a new sanding block waiting there for you. Okay, so now we're just drying it off and inspecting our sanding skills. Now this is where most people would probably freak out. Yes, the headlight is less yellow than before, but as you can see with the sanding marks, it's not clear. So just stay with me here and I'll show you what happens. But let it dry and haze up. And then sometimes you blow on it. You can just inspect and make sure that your sanding is even. There's no major marks that still need to be addressed. Now, I can see I've done a really good job here and here, but I still see that I need to get a little bit more right here. So let's work on that. All right, so now I'm using the towelette here to make sure that the surface is perfectly clean before we spray on the clear. Okay, so that was step 1, making sure that you evenly sand and remove the top coat that has degraded over the years. And now for step 2, we actually have to go outside. And let me tell you why. Okay, so this is the coating, clear coat, right? Should be pretty straightforward. I was actually wondering, why the heck do I have to do this outside? Because normally I would just, mask everything off and just shoot the clear in here where it's probably less dusty. But what I've learned is this headlight coating is actually the curing for the coating gets activated by the sunlight's UV rays. So you really need to do this on a sunny day, and when you spray it on, it'll activate, with the UV, it'll activate the clear's curing time, and it only takes about 10-15 minutes to cure. Not fully, but you know, to the touch, so to speak, and then leave it in the sun for another 3 to 4 hours, and it's cured completely. So let's move this outside. We'll mask it off and cover the larger areas to make sure that we don't get any overspray. Okay, so we are outside now. We finished masking off and putting newspaper in the drop cloth just to make sure we catch any potential overspray. I used the lint-free cloth to make sure I wiped the surface clean. Make sure that there's no water anywhere from when you were wet sanding. When it's outside, a little tip for you is make sure it's not too windy. One, you don't want your clear to spray all over the place, but then also if it's windy, some of the stuff might blow back onto your work, or worse, debris or pollen or whatever it might be might land on your finish. So this can comes in the package. Now, probably for smaller headlights, you could get away with one can doing both headlights. But for me, just to have the assurance that I'm going to cover it very well, to do the headlights on a Cayenne, I probably would buy 2 packages. And that way, this can will just be purely dedicated to this headlight. So this is, as they say, where the magic happens. This is step number 2, applying your clear coat. And what's important is you shake this for 30 seconds. And then as you're applying it, make sure you overlap by about 50%. You don't want to lay it down too thick where it's going to run, but you want to be thorough enough to make sure that you cover the whole area of the headlight. And I do it with just 1 coat. So let's go. Now, unfortunately, I laid it down a little bit too thick, so there is a little run right here, probably because that's in the center and I probably got too close. So we're gonna see if that settles out. Okay, so we've let this cure for about 3 to 4 hours out in the sun. We've removed the tape, the newspaper, and the drop cloth, and this is what you're left with. I'm pretty happy. I will say a little newbie mistake is that even though I told you to be careful not to apply it too heavily, when I came across this area, I came a little close and I caused a little bit of a drip or run. Thankfully, as it cured, it seemed to have laid down very well, and it's only noticeable if you're really this close to the light. It's definitely clearer, but it seems to have sort of an orange peel finish to it. It's a little distracting, but it's still 98% better than what it was for the price. Again, the headlights, new ones are about $1,500, a couple $100 if you buy them used. So for less than, I think, $27, $30 a kit, you can restore your headlight. So I'm quite happy with it. I can live with this. We'll show you the difference between the light output of the two, unrestored and restored. And then we're also going to swap out the headlight bulb in this one as well. The bulb that's in this headlight is the original Xenon bulb. And I've been told that they do sort of lose their brightness over time. So I'm going to swap that out and then we'll compare the two. Okay, so we are going to replace the Xenon headlight bulb in the recently restored headlight here, and we're going to take the headlight out. It's actually pretty easy. First off, please excuse the dirty, non-detailed engine bay, but to remove the headlight, all you simply do is press right there, pops this cap off. You will see instructions right here where you go counterclockwise is to unlock the headlight and clockwise is to lock the headlight in place. Now you have to look deep into there and you'll find the stud. It's a 6mm. I've got my little socket there, and you're gonna go counterclockwise to unlock it and you'll hear it go click. There it is. So then what you do is you'll carefully slide out your headlight. Be careful to catch it because sometimes it wants to pop out and fly forward. So you just kind of wiggle it out carefully. There you go. And that's it. Now you have your whole headlight assembly out. Again, we're only taking this out because we're replacing the headlight bulb. To restore the front of the headlight, you didn't need to take the headlight out, unless you wanted to. Now that we have the headlight assembly out, we can go ahead and replace the bulb. You'll notice I'm wearing gloves. You want to wear gloves just in the event that you touch the bulb. The moisture from and the oils from your fingers, if it actually gets on the bulb, when the bulb gets hot, it'll boil and actually cause the bulb to break. So you want to make sure you wear gloves when you're working with headlights. Okay, so to start off, we're just simply going to pop these little clips off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pry that out, and it just pops open. Quite easy. And there you have access to the bulb right there. As I mentioned earlier, this bulb is original from 2006. I have never changed these bulbs. And again, I've heard that they do become more dim as they age. So I went ahead and ordered a new pair. They're not too expensive. Ah, look at that. And maybe that's why it's more dim. It's definitely aged. Let's compare that to a new bulb. Park that right there. Here's my new bulb. And look at that. All right, so hopefully that'll mean brighter light. So I'll park that there. Carefully pull this off. Plug in the new one. Plug and play. Carefully place it in without hitting anything. All right, slides right in. Clip goes in. Clip goes back on. There you go. Back to the car it goes. So let's reassemble the headlight assembly. What you'll want to do is make sure there's 2 rails on each side of the headlight mounting spot, and you want to make sure that you slide it in so that the tabs fall inside the rails properly. And you'll know because it'll just slide in as it should, and you see it pushes in. Look at that. And everything is lined up nicely so you know you're correctly into the rails. You give it a nice little snug little push, lightly so you don't break the lens. Everything seems to fit properly there. You go back to your screwdriver with socket, and you're going to go clockwise to lock everything in place. And you'll hear it click once it locks. There you go, now it's locked. If you don't hear that click, that means the headlight is just going to sit in that rail spot, and when you hit your brakes, your headlight will go flying forward. So you've got to hear that click. I've seen it at an autocross where a Cayenne was coming into the stop box, hit the brakes, and the headlight flew forward. That's an expensive mistake. So now that it's locked, you put the cover plate back on, and you're done.